Hi everyone, my name is Matt. I'm the youth and family pastor at Cornerstone Church in Marshfield. I'm here today with your Cornerstone Connection, a daily devotional. Well, just recently, I was at my boys' swimming lessons a week or two ago, and I got talking to a fellow dad there, and we just got talking about life and work and marriage and parenting. And one of the things that we got talking about with parenting is obviously the idea within parenting of having certain rules or expectations for our kids. And then we went on from there to talk about, okay, well, what happens when they don't meet those expectations, or when they go outside the lines or of those boundaries or those rules that you have set? How do you handle that? Is there discipline involved? What does that discipline look like? And one of the things I was sharing with this dad was that how in the Bible it talks about how discipline is love, and how I have often, and my wife and I have often reminded our boys that in those hard moments where discipline of varying levels needs to happen with our children because they've disobeyed us or gone outside the lines that we've drawn for them, that if we did not discipline them, then we don't love them. Because if we just allow them to do whatever they want, they're really, though that might feel good in the moment, it really doesn't convey a whole lot of love. And so today, as we get to the book of Deuteronomy, and we are in chapter 5, Moses is giving his final words to the Israelites as they're about to go into the promised land. And it's been confirmed to Moses that he will not be crossing into the promised land. He gets to just see it, but he will not get to cross into it. And so he is talking with the Israelites again and giving them his final words and final commands before they cross into this land that God has given them. And one of the things that he is going to revisit with these people is the Ten Commandments. And you'll see that as you go to chapter 5. And Moses lets them know, you'll remember when we were on the mountain and God spoke to us and he gave us his 10 commandments, and he wrote those 10 commandments on tablets that he gave to me, Moses, so that we would have them and remember what his commandments are, and we'd follow them and we'd live by them. And so he said, I'm going to remind you of those today as you go into the promised land, to make sure that you continue to adhere to these commandments, to these rules, to this law that God has given us, his people. Now, oftentimes when we think about the Ten Commandments and the idea of rules and commands, especially those coming from God, sometimes the picture painted in our culture that there's this God who just wants to be controlling and domineering and simply just wants everybody to obey him just because, and that his motives are purely selfish, and that he is just looking and waiting for us to cross the lines and to disobey his law so that he can then punish us. But then as we read Deuteronomy chapter 5, and Moses gives his little prelude to the Ten Commandments, and then he reminds them exactly word for word of the Ten Commandments that God has given his people, he then says this, and this is really the main point of what I want to talk to you about today. In Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 29, we see the heart of God not only behind his commandments, but more than that, for his people back then, but also for us, his people today. I love the expression of God as we hear it through Moses as he's speaking to the people. Deuteronomy 5, verse 29, here's what God says to Moses and then to the people. He says, oh, that their hearts would be inclined to fear me and keep all my commands always. So there's the big statement. I want them to fear me, revere me, respect me, keep my commands all the time. And there we go. Oh gosh, he just wants, again, to be domineering, controlling, and punish people when they don't follow his rules. But listen to this. Oh, that their hearts would be inclined to fear me and keep all my commandments always, so that it might go well with them and their children forever. And you know, as a parent, I relate with God there. I think of those hard moments when I'm asking my kids to follow certain rules and expectations. And I think of those hard moments when I need to discipline them when they cross the line. But I have to keep in mind why I have those rules, why my wife and I have those rules and expectations, and why we discipline when they don't follow those rules and expectations. So that, as God says, it might go well with them. And not just with them, but for their children forever. Isn't that just lovely? Well, why does God set these commands? Why does he give us these commands? Why does he give us these rules and expectations? Why is there discipline involved when we don't meet those expectations? Because God loves us. And he wants it to go well with us. And he wants life to go well for our children. And he knows that if we live within his boundaries, if we live by his commandments, go back and read them. If we live that way, it will go well with us and for our children. Have a great day, friends. We'll see you next time on the Cornerstone Connection.